this is a real opportunity, perhaps the first opportunity that Your Lordship's House has had to consider global biodiversity issues since the final report on the ACHI biodiversity targets on the UN Convention on Biological Diversity that brings to an end the UN Decade of Biodiversity, or perhaps that should be named the UN Decade of Biodiversity Loss and Collapse, because of the 20 objectives set out for improving biodiversity and saving biodiversity in 2010, none of the targets were met, and only 6 of them were partially met. Now, here we're talking particularly about CITES and wildlife trade and the implementation and application of those rules. And in his introduction, the Noble Lord the Minister referred to 93 new species being added to CITES, including a species of viper. And I wanted to take this opportunity to draw the Noble Lord the Minister's attention, if it hasn't already been drawn to his attention, to an excellent article in Nature Communications dated September 2020, and which talks about the under-regulated global trade in reptiles, which I think is of particular relevance given his introductory remarks. And the figures in this really are quite shocking. 35% of reptile species are traded online. 3/4 of the trade is not covered by international regulation. 90% of the species and half the traded individuals are captured from the wild. Now, what this journal article covers is the fact that CITES is currently focused on the most economically valuable species that are traded in large volumes. And I note that, of course, all of these issues have become under a renewed focus in the light of the COVID-19 pandemic. And with regard to that, and we're not, of course, yet sure of the path for the virus between bats and humans, but pangolins have certainly been suggested, and pangolins were only added to CITES in 2016. So what this article suggests, and what I've seen some subsequent debate, is suggesting that CITES should consider turning around the burden of proof, turning around the method of regulation, and suggesting that it should recognise certain species for which trade is allowed, and then have a presumption that other species are not allowed to be traded unless they're known. And I draw attention to the fact in this article that the researchers found that within about a year of a new species being discovered, there's first evidence of it being traded. So I understand the Noble Lord the Minister might be able to reply immediately, but I would ask him to ask his department to look at this article, to consider the incredibly parlous state of our global wildlife and what the UK might do as a partner in CITES to really make it more effective and to really tackle the global biodiversity crisis.